name's Julie Cairnes and I'm a life mastery and conscious creation coach. I'd like to welcome you today to the Inner Peace Masterclass, and today I have with me the amazing Ken Stone. Ken is the Soul Archaeologist. This is how he's known, and he works with helping people to bring their soul back into their body. I'd like to welcome you, Ken, so welcome to the Inner Peace Masterclass. Thank you.
It's an honor to be with you, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And I'd love you to give us a little bit of a background, if you can, about how you came to this work. What brought you to the work you're now doing?
Well, I used to be a mortgage lender. And before that, I was a sound engineer. So, you know, spiritual teacher is just the next step in that progression, right? We start in
I can see that.
Mixing concerts, and then we do people's finances, and then yeah. What happened was I woke up in 2007, spiritually speaking. I really started opening to a much deeper level of awareness. And in August of that year, I learned to meditate. And then in September, I went to an in-residence meditation retreat. Despite the fact that none of what was being taught or promised for the retreat was intellectually appealing to me, nor was it really appealing to my heart as I understood it at the time. And yet still I went. And in going to this retreat, I really was facing a lot of fear. But I found in waking up spiritually, a big part of what was going on for me was I was finding more and more kind of liberation the more I faced into my fear. So anyway, I went to this retreat, and there a fellow participant, because we were in silence, wrote on a piece of paper, "You should be working as a healer." And I started sobbing uncontrollably, even though I didn't know what the word healer meant. And that was the beginning. So I fought with it for probably 2.5 years, from January of 2008 to the summer of 2010, really resisted the idea that this is where my life was headed. And finally, I just began to accept this is where I'm being called. It's not what I thought my life would be. It's not what I wanted my life to be. It's not at all what I had designed or imagined or visualized my life to be. Quite the opposite. But, and yet, every time I went and did this work and engaged at a deeper level, I found myself, it was almost like opening into a room that had oxygen in it. And I had been breathing, you know, the thinnest of air. It was like barely surviving, and then breathing 100% oxygen, just really, really having this extraordinary dynamic. And so I followed that. I followed that call. I followed that resonant path. And yeah, eventually it led me to today, to sitting with you for our conversation.
And it wasn't the future you envisioned working in this way, but I imagine that it's a most satisfying and fulfilling place you're in now.
Yeah, beyond anything I could have ever imagined, actually. You know, one of the things that I always looked for in my relationships with my mortgage clients was some sort of significant, it was a kind of significance. Like I really wanted to be able to support them in some meaningful way.
Yeah.
And, you know, doing mortgages, the opportunities to do that are somewhat limited. And so, you know, I became trained in all of these advanced financial strategy and tax strategy and estate planning and blah, 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 blah. Well, none of it was really what I was after, but the essence of the relationship that I was looking for was very much about this. And as you say, you know, it's been a pretty profound journey of surrender, really, over these interim years. Really letting go and opening up to a mystery that just keeps revealing itself. And to your point, it is so far beyond anything I could have imagined in terms of that substantial relationship with the people with whom I'm blessed to support and serve. And yeah, and it's so fulfilling. I mean, it's, you know, nothing that I could have ever dreamt up at the time is nearly this fulfilling.
So what brought you to Soul Archaeology? Was it taught to you? Was it downloaded? Was it meditation?
Yeah, no, I'm not trained in any of this, Julie. It's all just in fact, the gentleman that who told me you should be working as a healer, I hired him for my first intuitive reading of my life, which was 2 days after Christmas of 2007. And we got done with the session, and what I heard him say was, you know what you're doing. You don't need to be trained. Go do it. So that's what I did. My hands and feet started buzzing, and crazy stuff started happening. And about towards the end of 2012, I went and listened to the recording of that session. What he said is, you don't know what you're doing. You need to get trained, and go get trained before you work with anyone. But the answer to your question is, a very good friend of mine, Rhonda Renee, and I were chatting. It must have been in the summer of 2011, probably. And if you don't know Rhonda, she has a real gift in terms of understanding where someone's soul is at and how it wants to express, and giving voice to that. And we were sitting together, and she said, I know, you've done session work with me, and I know what you do, but just start talking about it. And I said, oh, well, we just kind of dig down underneath all the noise and all the dissonance and all the stuff up here at the surface, and we uncover this whole part of ourselves, this beautiful, extraordinary thing it's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And she said, oh, you're the soul archaeologist. And I went, whoa, there it is. So that's it. It was a name given to me by a good friend.
Well, you were led there. It was sort of like the messages kept coming to you, but you have to hear them. Not everyone hears the messages when they come.
Yeah, no, I suspect the messages were there maybe even for decades prior to this point in my life, but I was good at ignoring them.
It's really interesting. I also noticed that you say that you are an amplified conduit for divine energy, or maybe others have said that about you. I kind of understand that concept, and it's not something that everyone does have. It is something about being able to, it really is a particular quality of actual amplification of spiritual messages, and really does more easily reach a global audience. It's sort of almost like you're not really meant to be local. You are meant to be global when it's amplification in that way. I kind of liken it to the Herkimer crystal. The Herkimer is an amplifier, natural amplifier, and it's like a human Herkimer crystal that somehow you're naturally kind of like, I don't know. It's not necessarily having a bigger personality. It's almost like a bigger mission, a bigger, I don't know. How would you explain amplification of your divine mission?
Well, it's very interesting that you're saying these things, because I tried to actually do what I'm doing locally for a while, and I couldn't get anywhere.
I get that.
And when I finally was like, okay, this is not the forum for what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm just going to put a website out and just see what happens. I'm going to stop being focused in northern Colorado, here in the States. I'm just going to see what's out in the world. So that it happened very naturally. It's funny. My personality is quite big, and my body's quite large too. I'm 6'5", and I look like an out of shape American football player. So I, as it turns out, I have the amplified personality and physical presence as well. Yeah. But what I find is that when I sit with people, what is being enlivened and amplified is the essence of who they are. It's not, and in that enlivenment, in that amplification, is something that lies beyond my ability to, let's say, name or know, but I can feel it, and they can feel it. And as that happens, as we sit together, either two of us or thousands of us or tens of thousands, it doesn't really matter to me. It feels very similar to me, actually. And it doesn't matter whether we're in person or talking across the globe, as you and I are right now. That doesn't matter either. Proximity has no play in it whatsoever. In that process, something profound is being amplified, and it is, the divine mystery that exists within each of us. And that's the place where we uncover and begin to experience our wholeness. It's the place where we uncover our spiritual gifts. It's the place where we, begin to experience the peace of God, and so on and so forth. There are all these extraordinary things that happen in that place. And, when people say to me, well, how do you do that? I say, I have no idea. It's not something that I'm pulling, whoop, whoop, doing little levers, or I have some knowledge of what it is that's happening. It's just the thing that I'm built for. It's the thing that I do, or probably much more accurately, it's the thing that God does through me. That's where the conduit piece comes through.
Absolutely, yeah. So a clear channel for divine energy coming through, and you've read the messages. I just love to talk to you more about what your actual work is of bringing the soul back into the body, because it's such a profound statement of what happens to people when they've been through shock or trauma. It's almost like they're beside themselves. They're literally some people don't even realize it. I think psychic people, intuitive people, empaths, spiritual workers, we can see and sense, and it may have happened to us ourselves too, and we've been brought back into ourselves. But that sense of fragmentation or dissociation is like a more psychological term, but just like the spirit or the soul being not quite in, like sometimes even quite far removed. What's your experience? So like you're actually bringing the soul back in. What is your experience of the soul that's not fully integrated?
So what I see is this pattern and it's a universal pattern, right? To me, the soul comes in at the crown of the head, and if it departs the crown of the head, we call that physical death. So when the soul comes in, it descends down through the totality of the physical presence and all the way into our everything, our arms, our shoulders, our torso, our abdomen, and our hips fully. And as it descends, it enlivens everything that is there. And the dynamic that exists for many of us is that we're caught in what I call a trauma cycle, meaning we are triggering some earlier trauma or wounding. And for some of us, it's something obvious. It's something that happened, let's say, earlier in our lives or 10 years ago, right? Or as children. But for some of us, it's coming in from prior lifetimes, right? And there may be an experiential echo that's happened, but maybe it's much more difficult for us to put our finger on it and say, well, that's the thing. But it doesn't really matter to the soul. The soul runs into these traumas and it enlivens them because the soul is an enlivening presence. It's an animating presence. And so as it animates the trauma, then we re-encounter the traumatic dynamic, right? So, and if we just, let's say, somebody took a sword and cut my belly, right? And it's healed now, but there's a wound there, there's a scar there, right? And so as the soul comes down, that incision could actually be enlivened. It might turn red. It might get very painful. I might re-encounter it. And so then the soul's response to that trauma, and I'm just using that as an example. It might have been sexual trauma or some other thing that has happened, right? Yeah. And so the soul's response, if it's not supported in sustaining the embodied condition, will disembody. It'll come back into the head. And so in disembodiment, there are all these things that I see as byproducts of disembodiment, like anxiety, like depression, like anger, like rage. There's a whole slew of things that, to my view, are byproducts or artifacts of disembodiment. And when we're encountering those things, we get into a dynamic where we're trying to engage with them. How do I fix this? How do I fix that? But it's really just the soul trying to come home back into the hips again. And so the problem is, things get good, right? Everything's resonant in our lives. The soul goes, oh, time to come home. Comes home and animates it again and whoop, pops back out. And so then we're stuck in this trauma cycle. So the work that I do with people is really about supporting them in their soul coming all the way in and transmuting that trauma, enlivening it. And if you want to think of it this way, burning it up. Now, I'm not trying to use fire literally. I'm just using it metaphorically, consuming by the presence. Some people would say the presence of the Holy Spirit, but for me, we could call it divinity, God, source, the nameless one, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Buddha, Krishna, it doesn't matter what name we put on that energy. To me, it doesn't matter. And as that comes in through the soul, it both animates and then transmutes the trauma. And then we can move from a life that is consumed with the trauma cycle to a life that's consumed with the cycle of resonance, which is a lot more fun. So yes. I don't know that that's a brief overview, but there it is.
I love that so much. I really I resonate with what you're saying. I know that not everyone does on this planet.
Sure. No.
There are many of us who are of that thinking that there is no ownership of God, that we can't put God into one particular religion, and God belongs to all religions, with God of many names, of many faces, and many appearances. It's a beautiful thing. And then owning that we are like a little ray of sunshine. Well, like that.
And the thing is, I've had the opportunity to interview some really extraordinary people in conjunction with this, one of these projects that I'm working on called the Resonance Experiment. And one of the people I sat with was a man named Thomas Keating, who you and others may recognize. He's a very well-known Christian mystic. He's still alive. He's 94 years old.
Wow.
And when I sat with him, he's been a Catholic priest and a monk his entire life. Mm-hmm. So for however many, 70 some odd years. And so here's this man who's inside the container of a conventional religious dynamic. Yeah. And he's sitting with me face to face. I was actually blessed to interview him in person at his monastery. And he said to me, listen, no religion holds all the truth. It each holds a sliver, an insight, a gift. But together, they and all of humanity offer us a path, right? A deep truth.
There is so much beauty in so many of the different scriptures.
Yes.
We can take so much from each one, has incredibly rich, beautiful, profound gifts to give us.
Yeah. So I love working and connecting with people of all different backgrounds, because ultimately the thing we're talking about, you know, it could be something based in the Quran, or it could be something based in the Bible. It could be something based in Hinduism or in Buddhism or in Jewish texts and so on and so forth. It doesn't much, and it could be somebody who has no belief in God or divinity whatsoever. I don't really care. To me, it's about deepening the relationship with that nameless presence that is within all of us, whatever we call it. The name is not the thing that matters. To me, it's an unknowable presence, but we can experience it. And it's in the experience of that presence that our lives begin to be transformed in a significant and sustaining way. And the beginning of that, to my perception, happens through soul embodiment. That's the beginning. That's the start.
Absolutely. And you work with a lot of people who've actually come through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is an area I also work in and hold close to my heart. And also one of the reasons I developed this masterclass was to acknowledge that the planet is a planet in trauma from many lifetimes of warfare, religious warfare, racial warfare, spiritual warfare, that we all carry that within us, you know, and that it's really about healing so we can move forward. And so that's the work that you're doing. You're working with people who are traumatized. Can you tell us a little bit around that work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's the thing that I think it's important for us to acknowledge is, first of all, when we're talking about trauma is in the eye and the body and the vessel of the one who has experienced the trauma. So there's no point in saying this is a worse trauma or this is a better trauma. Anyone who has been traumatized in whatever fashion is having a legitimate experience of that trauma, and that's totally valid. The second thing to say as a result of that is that basically everyone is traumatized at some level, right? And we can use euphemisms like I have an energetic block or I have something that needs to be cleared. And from my perspective, those approaches set aside, right? If I'm tripping over a log and I push it off to the side of the path, the log's still there. But if I burn the log up in the fire of my embodied soul, the log isn't there anymore to trip over. And so what the people that I work with, what they begin to discover is not only are those blocks, they're more than clear, they're transmuted. So they literally don't exist anymore. But it's not that they've lost the memory or the lesson or the awareness that's come, or the gift, we could say, that's come from the trauma. But also then they've begun to step further into what their true path is, their true calling. So for the people that I'm working with, it's really a combination of kind of 3 or 4 different factors. One of them is to be able to move past or move through, to transmute through the trauma cycle, right? To break the trauma cycle. Yeah. The second thing is then to open up into that cycle of resonance and move deeper into the experience of wholeness viscerally in our bodies. This is not mind work. This is not mantra-based. This is not belief-based work. Nothing wrong with those approaches. That's just not the work that I do. My work is all experientially based. And then the third piece of this is, you know, kind of the golden ticket into spiritual freedom, I guess we could say, and that is work around surrender, around truly letting go and subordinating oneself, moving from a controlling, sort of mind-based consciousness to much more of a being-based consciousness, and opening up and subordinating oneself to divinity. In those 3 steps opens up a profound, we could say, vision or opportunity or arena in which to begin engaging in our true mission. You know, if we go back to some of your first questions for me, you know, I thought my mission had to do with financial services and optimizing retirement assets. But as it turns out, it has to do with the things we're talking about, which is nothing to do with finances and all the rest of that excitement. And so by opening up and doing this work myself, which has really all been experiential, not a function of any training or anything like that, but just by following that inner guidance, by supporting others in doing that, people are able to move through this sort of a highly traumatized, unpresent, anxiety, depression-filled kind of dynamic, end of the rope dynamic. I've really been trying lots of different things, can't get that big breakthrough, to a recognition, instead of trying to push up, we sink down into ourselves, we open up to a deep peace, and then we find a flow, a way forward in our lives that is previously undiscoverable. Literally, it's unavailable to us because we're taking the approach from a mind-based rather than a being-based dynamic.
Yeah, because trauma is extremely debilitating, immobilizing, blocking. So I mean, it's really valuable work you're doing. Like, it's really, you're working with very deep psychological and psyche issues and spiritual issues. So I just like to summarize like those 3 steps. One is like to throw out the map, the surrender, excavating your soul, so connecting to the truth within, and to keep digging as a daily practice. These are the steps that you name as the 3-part archaeological expedition.
Yeah. If we want to try to talk about them specifically, right? If we excavate the soul, we could call that the embodiment of the soul, right? From the place of separation, we think the soul is descending, but really what we're doing is just uncovering the experience of the soul already embodied, right? And the second experience then is an extension of that, which is that experience of wholeness. And then, yes, throwing out the map. It's a wonderful metaphor for surrender. A lot of people prefer that to surrender. Surrender is one of those button-pushing words for a lot of people. And then, the third one is to keep digging. Because, I'm guessing I'm not alone in this belief or this wish. I would like to do my work and then go goof off for the rest of my life, right? Do my spiritual work and then be on easy street. But as it turns out, it's much more of a daily discipline than just go flip a light switch and change things around. It's really about a deeper and deeper engagement, a deeper level of intimacy with the self and also with divinity. And this opens up such a rich experience for anyone, for absolutely anyone, no matter where they're at in their life.
And it's clear that the people who work with you say that they've experienced a very deep, profound experience with you. It's like an awakening. They feel very safe with you. So it's just obviously a very profound experience that you're doing with people, and not always face to face, but through technology, which is like the new conduit of, it can be group healings. I have watched people do group healings over the internet that work. Like, it's quite profound, not completely directed at one person, but somehow each person can take it as their own healing, and it really works. I wonder, how you would feel about doing a demonstration, or
I'd love to do that.
Give us an idea of how you work.
Yeah, I'd love to actually do a transmission. I was going to say, this is what I do all day long, every day, Julie, is this, I work with people all around the world simultaneously, sometimes live, as we are right now, right? And also sometimes through recordings of prior live sessions, sometimes through self-study programs. There are a variety of different things. And of course, as we know, time and space are an illusion. And so we can become fixated. Is this live or is it recorded? It doesn't much matter in the work that I'm doing, because whenever someone encounters it, they're having a live experience of that enlivening presence. So I would love to do that. I would absolutely love an opportunity to work with you and everyone else who's on the line right now and do some soul embodiment together. Doesn't that sound fun?
I say, let's go.
Okay, beautiful. Well, on the off chance that, is it okay if I just dive in a little bit, or is there more you want to say? Or
dive away. Go for it.
Okay. And here we go. Let's take our deep dive. Okay. So the thing I want to say is, just on the off chance somebody is listening to this while mobile, while driving a car, if you're listening in, this is the time to pull off to the side of the road. It's really not safe to be in transmission and operating heavy equipment or driving a car or even riding a bike, because you never know what's going to happen when you start sinking in at a deeper level. And people very regularly say to me, I feel like I fall asleep. And none of them are actually falling asleep. They're just sinking in at a very, very deep level. They're moving to a level where their central nervous system can't stay consciously aware of what's unfolding because the work is getting so deep. So with that having been said, my invitation would be, and I'm going to go ahead and do this myself, to close your eyes. If it's comfortable for you to breathe in and out through the nostrils, palms to the sky. And let's just do a little bit of breathing together and we'll open up. And you'll know when I switch from kind of a guided dynamic to transmission, because I'm going to say, let's begin. And when I do that, I'll be working with everyone who is watching or listening to this experience. So with that, let's take a deep breath in and hold. And as you begin letting go of this breath, just let go of everything else that has come before in this day. And let's breathe out to the count of 8. Let the breath go. And if visualization is something that's easy for you, you can visualize. I'm breathing out and I'm allowing the breath to cascade down through my chest, my upper abdomen, my lower abdomen, and my hips. Like water flowing down a gentle hill. It'll find its way down the hill. You don't have to worry about pushing the water down. You have to push the breath down into your body. Just let it cascade lower. And let's take another deep breath in and hold. And as you begin releasing this breath now, let's let go of everything that has come before since you signed up for this beautiful series with Julie, all the way out to the count of 8. Again, chest, abdomen, lower abdomen, hips, pelvic floor. Just let the breath drop through the body. And then let's do another deep breath in and hold. And as you begin releasing this breath, letting go of everything that has come before since the inception of your soul, out to the count of 8. Again, chest, abdomen, hips, pelvic floor. We're going to do just a little bit of visualization and breathing here together. Take this in a little bit further before we kind of open into transmission. Just notice in your mind's eye, eyes still closed if it's comfortable for you. In your mind's eye, there's this cue of breath in front of your face, right? One breath, another breath, so on and so forth. You breathe it in, it just comes right in. Boom, comes right into your lungs. Comes in and serves and supports every part of your body. And as you breathe in, another unit of breath cues. Breathe another one in. There's no criteria, no condition. The breath doesn't care what your sexual orientation is, your political beliefs, your spiritual beliefs. Doesn't matter if you cut somebody off in traffic or you did some horrible thing 10 years ago or some horrible thing got done to you earlier today, or all of those things. The breath does not care. Breath comes in to serve. Has no criteria, no condition whatsoever. And if you look just in your mind's eye, in your imagination, if you like, into that cue of breath, you'll notice it's almost like there's some food coloring being dropped into the breath, like going into a glass or a pitcher of water. The breath is beginning to change color. And as you take in your next breath, be with it from the perspective of that color. Comes in up through the nostrils to the crown, drops into the lungs. And we're going to move time forward here, gently but quickly, right? So we're going to watch what happens as you keep breathing from the perspective of the lungs. The coating inside the lungs, it changes color. Then the lining of the lungs becomes the vector, the pathway for that color, the breath to move into the bloodstream. And then as you watch it even further, then now that bloodstream is serving each cell in the body. And if you move the breath forward or time forward about 45 minutes, you'll find that at about that point, every cell in the body is imbued with that color. And it's really, you can look, here or here, anywhere in your imagination, in your mind's eye. And there's a simple conclusion. The breath is becoming you, and you are becoming the breath. And just notice, rationally, your mind, yep, that's true. And then in your body, notice the feeling of resonance that comes into your total being, your entire being. The buzzing, a tingling might come into your hands or your top of your head. Whatever you're feeling, including nothing, it's perfect. Just notice that presence beginning to make itself known. The truth felt. And if we extend that breath, that awareness with breath, the breath is becoming you, you becoming the breath. Now, notice that the cue of breath that serves you, we could call the breath of the planet. It doesn't much matter where you are in the world. The breath of the planet serves you just as it does me and Julie and everyone else who's participating in this experience. And we could say in this way, we're all connected by the breath. And so even taking it one step further, with each breath, you're connected to all the beautiful people in this circle and really in the world. The breath doesn't differentiate between the people who are participating in this beautiful experience. It just serves everyone. And in fact, it doesn't differentiate between people and animals and plants and insects and water and fish and trees and Each breath, you're connected to everyone, everything, above, upon, within the planet. And then the breath of the planet, notice it becomes the breath of the cosmos. At the very edges of our atmosphere, that breath touches space and in turn every other part of space. And as you breathe in and out, you are connected by your breath with everyone and everything in the cosmos, including that energy that underlies everything else. We could call it the divine, a light at a great distance, initially drawing closer with each breath. We could see those twin frequencies intertwine. The frequency of perfect health, the frequency of the divine itself, no separating the two, coming in and connecting in at your nostrils, and then an invitation extended to each of the smallest aspects of you, known and unknown. Come return to your natural state of resonance and alignment. The artifacts of dissonance gathering at the universal drain. For whatever remains in separation, you can remove the universal plug. I'll do the same. And let's begin. As I begin supporting and witnessing your soul in coming in, I'm just going to call some numbers out. You could think of them as the traditional chakras if you like, but my hands are actually moving energetically over your body and supporting your soul and coming home all the way into your hips. There's no thinking necessary. Just be with the feeling. Your only job is to allow, if there's emotion, allow it to express. If there are feelings and sensations in the body, allow them to be felt. 7. 6. 5, and those beautiful reminders coming up to speak your truth. My mouth is even buzzing. It's such a powerful reminder for each of us. Speak your truth. Some people wonder, what is my truth? Sink in, come home, allow the soul, support the soul in coming home into the hips, the totality of the entire cosmos at home within the hips, the infinite inside and held, contained within the apparently finite container and vessel of the body. 4. From that encounter, we discover and experience our truth. We know it. We're invited to speak it, to live it, to express it, to be it in the world. Be the truth as it presents itself to you. 3. There's a lot of energy moving. Just be with whatever the feelings and the emotions are that are coming up. 2. There's a beautiful shorthand that comes with that long form. With each breath, you are connected to everyone and everything in the cosmos, the divine, the twin frequencies, the light connecting into each of the smallest aspects of you, the invitation, the divine eventually becoming you, you becoming the divine. The shorthand, it's like looking at a river. Imagining you're holding your awareness and your imagination right now. You go to a river in your locale, wherever you are in the world. Sit next to the river, and the river is flowing downhill. Sit in the presence of the river, and a peace descends over your entire being. The river is flowing. Sit at an even deeper level, and perhaps even hold an intention that the river flow downhill. Still, the river is flowing. Drop your intention. Still, the river flows downhill. Turn your back on the river, and yet still the river is flowing. Walk away and forget of the river's existence even. Still, the river is flowing. So too with each breath. You are connected to everyone and everything in the cosmos, the divine, the light connecting into each of the smallest aspects of you on every level, known and unknown, seen and unseen. The invitation, the transformation, the artifacts of dissonance falling away. 1. The river is flowing. Though it may seem that my words have a great deal to do with what's happening, indeed, they don't. For what is going on is happening at a level much deeper than language. Underneath everything else, underneath even words, even thoughts, there is the presence of the divine within you. When I use the word soul, I mean the differentiated, unique expression of divinity known as you through these many iterations. When I use the word divine or God, I mean the nameless presence that is in everyone and everything. When I speak of embodiment, I mean the essence, the divine presence in you, fully enlivened, expressing itself fully in, through, and as you really are, one. And in that presence, miracles begin to take place. Spontaneous healing, a level of presence perhaps you've never felt before, with yourself, with the divine, with another, perhaps with every other. One. Can feel the resonance spreading in such a powerful way. And if it's not disruptive, if you would like to, Julie, if you don't want to, though, don't take your time. And if you feel like you don't even have to open your eyes, if there's anything coming up you want to give voice to or explore, we'll stay in this transmission really through the close of our time together. I'll go through a little process before we close of bringing the transmission to a conclusion. But as we sit in this space, many, many different things can be happening. Something different for each participant, each time you participate in the experience of your embodiment of the divine within. It's quite profound, because when we become fully present, it's virtually impossible to be fully present by thinking our way there. But we can feel, and more importantly, be fully present without any extra push. The mind gets to come along. The breath is becoming you, and you are becoming the breath. The divine is becoming you, and you are becoming the divine. The divine is in you, and you are in the divine. The breath is serving you, you are serving the breath. Everything is flowing from one expression to another. In a way, we are both massively expanded and phenomenally condensed. A singular expression and the drop of embodied divinity manifest as you, and the vessel in which the totality of the cosmos is expressed. Both are true. And through embodiment, what opens up is not only a pathway for transmutation, but we could also call it a pathway for healing. We could call it a pathway for peace. We could call it a pathway for presence, for nurturing, for being recharged. Many, many different ways to refer to this. And at the end of the day, underneath everything else, underneath even the words, is your embodied divine presence. I'll circle back around and just see, Julie, if there's anything coming up that you'd like to share or reflect on or give voice to. And I'm happy for you to stay in that sweet space that you're in too. Whatever is feeling good to you is perfect.
You're wanting me to share what's coming up?
Yeah, if you'd like to. If you want to give voice to it.
It's a very peaceful place that's letting go of words. It's beautiful. It's very, very much an experience of oneness. Yeah, it's very profound. Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So the thing is, this is really the pathway to become fully present, which is then the pathway to open to all of divine expression and presence, to all of the miracles that come with that. This is the beginning of all of our true, let's say, desire of the soul, desire of the heart, is the experience that comes when we embody the soul. But instead of seeking, we can then be experiencing. We can be in it. If you think about it, the mast of a ship and its sails are very important, for without it, the ship will go nowhere. But the mast and the sails alone offer nothing on their own either. The mast and the sails are the mind. Take the most extraordinary mast the most amazing sails and put them out to sea. They fall over in the water and do no good. Plant the mast and the sails and the heart in the hull of the ship. Now we have what appears to be a proper sailing boat. Put that out to sea. The winds of opportunity, the winds of challenge start blowing. Interestingly enough, that ship will eventually capsize. Why? Because it has not dropped its keel yet, the counterweight, the thing underneath the hull of the ship that keeps the mast upright when the winds blow. What is that keel? That is the embodiment of the soul in the hips. Drop the keel. Now, put this sailing boat out to sea. Beautiful mast, amazing sails, gorgeous ship, unseen, but absolutely essential presence of the keel descending down into the depth of the ocean. The winds of opportunity and challenge blow, and that ship powerfully sails on. It does as it was meant to do and to be. It is capable of the full expression of its divine manifestation. So it is for us as humans. If we only think, we flop at sea. If we think and feel, if we come into our mind and our heart, still the winds of challenge and opportunity blow and we capsize. But when we come into our hips, we drop the keel and we become a powerful embodiment of divine presence. And many extraordinary things are expressed in and through and as each of us. Check back in with you. I don't want to pull you out of language, and I also want to be respectful of time and of those we're participating with. Julie, how are you doing? Just checking in with you.
I'm in a beautiful place. Still very
Beautiful.
stable, very stable. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. If we think about the ocean as a metaphor for what type of presence is available to us, at the surface of the ocean, it might be quite stormy or it might be sunny and calm, but it's always changing. If we drop down 50 or 100 meters at the level of the divine keel, it's much more consistent. And if we drop even deeper to the true depth of divine presence, it is always still, always calm. And the greatest source of light is not coming in from above, up at the surface. It's coming from within, from your embodied presence. And with that, I want to begin bringing this transmission to a close. Invite you to return the universal plug when you're ready. And know you can come back and revisit this anytime you'd like by listening or watching again. As well, I've got a few goodies that I'd love to share. And there's a lot more of this. We're just barely scratching the surface here of what's available. But it's a very, very good introduction experience to what is available when we go into this deep place together. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with you, Julie, and with this beautiful community that you have gathered here. It's such an honor and a privilege.
Words fail me. Well, I don't know if they fail me. Thank you. That was... Yeah. Sometimes you can't put words to things.
I understand.
Just give me a minute.
I understand. It's all good. It's all good. I was just with my sister. I was up in Seattle recently doing a workshop up there. And my sister said, "What do you do, Ken?" And I said, "It's very hard to say." And she's like, "No, I mean, just tell me." And I said, "No, really. It's very hard to say."
Yeah.
There are people I've worked with weekly for years who still can't quite say what it is that happens when we sit together. She's like, "Seriously?" I said, "Seriously."
I can say what you did.
Beautiful. Let's hear.
It's almost as though you're breaking through, or I will be breaking through a barrier to say it. Is that I experienced God in myself.
Spot on.
And not only that, I knew when I opened my eyes, God would be looking at itself. But see, when you put words to it, I don't know if it loses something. But it's a very real experience.
Brilliant.
That was interesting. The screen flickered when you did that. It was very interesting. There are some things that, that's what you did. I know what you do. Almost like we don't give ourselves permission to fully experience it. Like, I actually went from my head to a real experience of something that I've known in my head to a complete.
Yeah.
I have experienced the feeling, but not the actual kind of experience. It's very hard to almost say how you create a reality of bringing God in.
Yeah.
And it was very multicolored, very soft, beautiful, multicolored.
Yeah.
Wordless, because God doesn't always have words.
Yeah, that's right. Words themselves are born in separation, right? So I always say to people that I'm working with, let's bring enough structure with us to move further into the mystery, and then let's abandon the structure. Let's let it all go.
It's like,
right?
it's like the pure moment before creation happens. It's that really profound moment just before everything's born. And you know what, I'm very interested to see what comes after this, because this moment is very profound and it's opened a doorway inside me. And anyone else who's watching will have had a doorway. So it doesn't stop here. So we need to keep talking and say what happens after.
We're barely opening the door.
But you did.
We're just getting started.
Well.
We're just barely getting started.
And you know, I think we have kind of run out of time. Sad to say, but thank you so much. And are you still there? Are you still there? Hello? Hello, are you there?
There you are. Julie, there's so much energy moving with the group here. My internet connection got a little choked up there. Can you say again, please?
Yeah, it stopped for a second, but I can see exactly how long. I think it'll be okay. And I just want to just have to end, just because it's been such a profound, beautiful experience. I guess just if you could just tell the viewers who participated, probably going through the same thing I'm going through, what the other beautiful gifts you've also given to them as part of this Inner Peace Masterclass.
Yeah, so if this is resonating, right, if you're interested in going deeper with this, then I would invite you to take advantage of the free gift. And the free gift is an opportunity to participate in the resonance experiment. And it's really 3 or 4 different transmissions, a couple through video and a couple through audio. It's pretty substantial. I mean, the last 2 transmissions, one of them is focused exclusively on embodiment. The other is exclusively on integration. And through these 3 or 4 transmissions, there's a progression here, not just from encountering God within, but to begin experiencing at a deeper and deeper level, to open that visceral experience of divinity, and then to open to how we might encounter that in our lives, how we might begin to live more and more of our lives from that perspective. and it's absolutely free. So I'd be honored to welcome the entire community, whomever is feeling resonant with this experience, and just to suggest, just enter your name and email address, and you'll get much more behind this experience.
We're so blessed with what you've brought us today. Thank you so much, Ken. Wow.
Oh, it's an honor.
Honor
to be with you.
It's going to happen today. It's been a profound day today. Thank you so much, and I'd love to connect with you again. Bless Ken.
Much love to you.
Thank you so much.